Welcome to this new live stream where we are going to cover 65 tips to use Xcode like a pro. So 65 is quite a good number when you think of it. Last time we did 30 tips to be a better iOS developer, so it's more than twice the amount of tips. So brace yourself. I'm expecting this live stream to land somewhere around 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. We'll see where it lands. But at least I'm really excited to finally be doing it. It was supposed to happen last week, but I lost my voice, so had to reschedule. But as you can see, my voice is back. I'm back to full health, and I have all the energy that I think I will need to go over this long list. So just like last time, we're going to use an external resource to have this list of 65 tips. So we're going to use a website that is in the description if you want to check it out. I'm going to switch to it. So the website is called xcode.tips. And it's a really great website because it's basically it contains, I'm looking for the name, it curates, I don't know what's the right word, but it's a collection of 65 tips. And as you can see, these tips, they have been illustrated with really nice visuals. So if you want to check the website yourself, you have the link in the description. As you can see, the creator has also made a Mac app. So if you want to support him, you know how you can do it. And we're going to cover all of this. So let me look at the chat also. So I see a few familiar names and faces. So we're going to talk about shortcuts mostly. So I've scrolled to the bottom of the page because we're going to take them in chronological order of when they were published. And I also have Xcode open, so we'll be able to switch back and forth from Safari to Xcode to actually try these tips. So the first one is how to move focus. So if you do Command J, apparently it allows you to move focus between two editors in Xcode. So let's actually try it. So I'm moving to Xcode, going to close this. So I'm gonna open, actually no, I need to open another file, so like that. So you see I did Alt-click to open another editor. So I have a view controller and a view model. And if I do Command J, I can move focus to one editor or the other. So I guess the interest is that you can also, yes, you can also do it with the left and right arrows on the keyboard, because if you click, you can do it, but I mean, you can just click and it's even faster. But if you want to do everything with the keyboard, it's a nice way to navigate between two open editors, two editors that are open simultaneously on Xcode. Okay, so that was for the first tip. Let's move on to the next one, which is moving a line up and down. So a shortcut that will allow us to move a line up and down. And here it's interesting because I think we get into the realm of the shortcuts that I will not be able to demonstrate to you. The reason is that you can see it uses the square brackets key. And the thing is, I'm French. I have a keyboard with a French layout. And on the French keyboard layout, believe it or not, but you don't have a dedicated key to do this character. You do it by doing Alt, Shift, and 5. And usually these shortcuts, they don't work for us on the AZERTY, so the French keyboard layout. So let's see. It should be Alt, Command, and square brackets. So let's try and see. I'm going to try and take this line. And if I do and square brackets, yeah, if I try and do it, it doesn't work. So actually, I think if you have a QWERTY keyboard, it's going to work really fine. But if you have, like me, an AZERTY keyboard, if it's one of these shortcuts that you can't really use, or at least you have to manually remap it. But it can be quite useful to be able to easily move a line up or down. Yeah, I know people say that QWERTY is so much better for coding, but I've used. Let me display the comment on the live stream. I know people say that QWERTY is so much better for coding, but I've used AZERTY all my life. I never really made a switch, and I guess like now it's I don't know, like at 33 years old, maybe it's a bit too late to make the switch. Plus, like it's a big commitment because if you buy a MacBook Pro for several thousand euros with a QWERTY layout and you end up not liking it, I mean, you cannot just like switch it easily. So you can't switch the layout keyboard easily. So the keyboard layout easily. So that's why I never really made a switch. But if you know, if you are watching live and you have either a French keyboard or another non-QWERTY keyboard and you know the shortcut to do this action, please let me know. But if you have a QWERTY keyboard, lucky you, you can do this nice shortcut to move lines. And as you can see, it's particularly useful when you're writing SwiftUI, because in SwiftUI, because of the way we use modifiers, there is a lot of one-liners where the order in which you call them is very important. Let's move on to the next tip. So this one, you might know it. So running with Command R, but also to stop Command and then full stop, which in a way makes sense to stop with full stop. Once again, we don't really have a full stop key on our keyboard in France. We have to do Shift and semicolon. So we'll see if it works. So of course, if I go to Xcode, of course, Command R, we know it. It's launching the app. You can see that right now it's building. And if I do, actually, I say that you can see it's building, but can you? Actually, no, you can't, because my Xcode window is a bit too high. So I'm just moving it ever so slightly down so that you can see what's happening. Yeah, because you couldn't see what was happening at this level. So I did Command R. So it started the app. Okay, it's trying to attach it. Okay. So it's starting the app in a simulator. And now if I try to do Command full stop, no, for me it does something else when I do Command full stop. It opens like the details of the scheme. So actually, if I go here, so for me it's Command and semicolon. So it's the same keyboard than full stop, except that it's on Shift full stop on this key. But for me, it's Command semicolon to do the stop, which in a way is interesting to see this, because it shows that this collection of tips has been made for US keyboards or for a QWERTY keyboard. If you have a non-QWERTY keyboard, be mindful that the shortcut might exist, but it might have been mapped to something else. So in my case, it was Command and semicolon. So let's move to the next one about choosing the execution scheme. And yes, you're right. You raise a very good point, Tom. So let me display your comment in the broadcast. So maybe you can find in key bindings in settings. Actually, let's try and do that. So I'm going to go in settings in Xcode, then key bindings. And if I search, for instance, to move a line up and down, so move line up. So move line up, it's Alt, Shift, and caret, and Alt, Shift, and dollar. So let me try it. So Alt, Shift. Okay. So actually I can do it. You know what? 11 years, even more. I started Xcode in 2010. So almost 14 years of using Xcode, and I discovered this only now. So yeah, very good comment, Tom. Thank you for it. So if you want to use these shortcuts that I'm showing to you, since I'm showing to you the QWERTY bindings, check in Xcode settings and then key bindings to find what's the appropriate binding for you, and you can also rebind it here if you want. So here I can actually do it by doing command option and then either dollar or caret. Super nice to learn this. I always like these live streams because I always learn new stuff. Okay. So this one is caret and 0, and it allows you apparently to choose your scheme. So let's see what happens if I do caret and 0. No, it's not what I want. So I'm gonna check in the settings. So something to choose the scheme. Choose scheme. So for me, it's caret and, okay, so no, it should be like caret and, because yes, it's a control. Okay, because in French keyboards, you have two carets. You have the caret on control, and then you have the caret to put like the diacritic sign over some vowels that we have in French. So you see, like it's this thing for instance. You can put it over an A, an E. So we have two of these. And so it's control, and then control 0. And so this one also works for me on my keyboard. And then you can choose the scheme. Here I'm on a project that has only one scheme, but if you're running several schemes, it can be super useful. If you also splitting your project across several Swift packages, it can be useful sometimes to only run the scheme of a package, because this way it will be faster to build than your full app. So this one can be very useful, and it's control and 0. Let's move on to the next one. So next one is editor history. So what's happening? So if you click on content and then you do Control Shift left or right, oh, it's to have a history of where you were in Xcode. So let's see. I think it's the same thing than these two controls right here. So let's see, I do app delegate, scene delegate, model, view controller provider, coordinator, and then I do control command left. Okay, so that's what it does. So it allows me to navigate the stack of my navigation inside Xcode, and it's the same thing than these two controls right here, just programmatically. So I've used these two things more often than not. Actually, they're actually quite useful. It's this kind of controls that when they add them, you're like, yeah, I've been living very well without them. Why should I need them? And then you like find yourself using them a lot. I also know that in Slack I use them a lot. And so you can also use them programmatically, which can be very useful when you're like really like deep diving into some code and you don't want to just like take the trackpad and start moving your mouse. You want to do everything with the keyboard. So that's a nice shortcut. Let's move to the next one, which is navigators. So if you do command 1, command 8, or command 0, so you can switch between like masking the left inspector, being on the I guess the file inspector or the debug inspector. So let's see. Let me go back to Xcode. So I'm going to close it. And so if I do command 1, indeed, I open this thing, which is the project navigator. If I do command 8, it shows this thing. Okay, is it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? So actually, yeah, it works with all of the numbers on your keyboard. And if you do 0, you close it and open it. That's very nice, especially if you follow my live stream, you can see that often I close this thing to have more room to show the code. So command 0, that's when I will remember, and then you can just dial in to have the right inspector. What's nice is that if you play first-person shooter, like using the numbers usually is to choose your weapon. So it's kind of the same thing. Like you can choose your weapon within Xcode. So that's kind of a nice analogy. But the command 01 is super good to know. I'm looking at the chat because I see a few messages. Oh, good question. Hey Vincent, thank you for your great streams. I've been watching for a year plus now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a regular watcher. Question for you: have you tried developing for Vision Pro, and are you planning to? So I'm going to answer it quite quickly. I had tried to do a live stream about getting started with Vision Pro. I think it was in July, but I ended up being in the bad situation where the new beta of Xcode didn't build with the sample project. And so I basically had to cancel the live stream like after 10 minutes, and I removed it because it had no value. So I put it a bit on pause. I haven't planned to focus a lot on Vision Pro for now, mostly because I think I will rather focus on content. I want to make content on how to learn UIKit when you do a Swift UI. I think it's going to speak to more people and help more people. But I can tell you that I have tried Vision Pro. I've been able to try it because Photoroom has bought one, and I was in the office of Photoroom 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, it was also when I was sick, so I only tried it for like 15 minutes, and then actually I went to the office, tried it, did a few other things, starting to feel bad, booked a train ticket, and came back home. So I didn't try it for a long time, but I did try it. It was interesting. So I think I will cover it at some point, but until I have one at home, I don't think I will focus on it too much because it's still niche content, and my North Star is to make content that will help as many people, and I think helping SwiftUI developers learn UIKit will be more impactful than doing stuff about Vision Pro. But thank you for asking. And yes, I know that UIKit for SwiftUI has been requested for a long time. I've really started to work on the outline yesterday, so it's coming. It's coming. I'm not saying it's coming next week, even though it might if I'm motivated and I prepare everything for the first one. But it's coming. It should happen in the coming weeks. My plan is to have it happen by the end of March at the latest. And I see you're saying you can trigger search by doing Command Shift F. Thanks for mentioning it. I guess we will see it like further down the list, but it's nice because indeed it will give you the focus on the search field as a bonus. Let's go back to the list and move to the next tip. So next tip is about View Debugger. So in the View Debugger, you have several controls. So you have this one that allows you to capture the view hierarchy. And from there, apparently, you can do things. Oh, you have these controls. So I knew about this one, but not about the other. Okay, so let's try and explore this toolbar. So for this, I'm going to run my app in the simulator. So it's my app that uses that interacts with the movie API. And it's the app we had built in the live stream from almost 2 years ago on how to have a good architecture for a UIKit project. So now I'm going to click on this button to capture the view interface. And so we can see, so when we move it, we have this cursor to isolate and only show part of the view hierarchy. We have this thing to move the 3D view, how further apart each view is. And then we have these things, which I must say, I have never used. So we can show the clipped content. Okay. Then this one is about showing the constraints. I guess it only shows the constraints that are applied and it masks the content. What does this one do? So we have wireframes. Okay, so it's kind of like what... oh, you can also just show the content if you want. Oh, that's nice. And this one, change canvas background color. Okay, so if it can help you just see better. Okay, and the last one is... Okay, just to move from 2D to 3D. Okay, the constraint one, I don't get what it does actually, because when I click on it, yeah, I don't really get what it does. If you know, let me know in the chat. But yeah, if you don't know, this view is very useful. It works better for UIKit than SwiftUI. In SwiftUI, things tend to be flattened, and also when you have a big app, it tends to fail, especially when you try to capture from a device. This works better on simulator than on device. But if you don't know about it, it's nice to learn about it. Let me go back to the web page and move on to the next tip. Okay, so we are on this one. Show document items. So Control 6 is going to show us the outline, and then we can navigate and move. Okay, so I'm going to move to a big file. So I'm doing Command 1 because I've learned this shortcut. Okay, then Command 0 to hide. And so if I do, what did they say? Control 6. Control 6. Okay, so it just, if I had clicked, you see here. So here, this shows me the the outline of the file. So I do Control 6, and then I can move to this method, for instance. When you click, I don't remember. Oh yeah, you can also filter. So I guess I can also do it if I do Control 6, and then I filter, for instance, for table view. I get all of the entries related to table view. So that's quite useful. Once again, you can always click to get it, but if you use it a lot, you have a shortcut so that you don't need to always go and search for it. I guess it makes sense. I know for whom it makes particular sense. If you're one of the lucky people who have an XDR display with the Apple 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 stand, and you put it vertically, and then you have to move, like your cursor all the way up the XDR display. Then I guess this shortcut can be really really useful. To be honest, I'm still the kind of people that would still like click just because, like, in the moment I don't think I will remember to do like Control 6, but it does exist, and it's good to know that that it exists. Where were we? Vim mode, is it the right one? Yes. Vim mode, start new line. So what is this Vim mode? I guess it's insert mode, I guess. So by doing O and then Shift O. Or is it if you are in Vim mode? So when Vim mode is active in Xcode, you can create a new line below the current one with the key O. The shortcut Shift O creates a new line above the current line. In both cases, Xcode switches to insert mode. So I guess Vim mode is when it doesn't insert, it's going to overwrite instead. But I don't know how you enter Vim mode in Xcode. I'm going to search for it. Okay, I don't have the shortcut to start it. I'm not gonna lie, I've never used Vim mode before, so I have no idea how you do it. And if I do like Shift O, yeah, no, because I'm not in Vim mode. How do you enter this thing? I have no idea. I've never used it. Maybe in the editor or in the edit menu. I'm looking in the edit menu to see if there is an option for like enter Vim mode. You can enter Vim mode from the settings. So I guess it's a setting that you do maybe in text editing. I'm looking to see. Editor, Vim mode. So you're saying it's editor, and then maybe I missed it. Editor. Vim mode. Oh yes, it was there and I missed it. So now I'm in Vim mode, and so you see, if I start writing, I guess it's, yeah. Oh no, it's because, okay, I need to know, okay, I need to know the shortcuts from Vim. But let me tell you, I don't know the shortcuts from Vim. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna exit this thing because no, it's like it's editor Vim mode. All right, I don't use this thing. I guess I'm not geeky enough to use this thing, so I will stop here. I will stop here. But I can tell you, story time. I used to have when I started my career. I had found a great way when you meet like new coworkers and you're trying to see if they are like cool people or not. It was like I would ask someone like, "What's the software that you've used the most in your life?" And they would tell you like, "What's their answer?" And then I would say, "Well, for me, it's Vim because I opened it 5 years ago and I haven't been able to exit it since." And from that, you have two kind of people who will just laugh at the joke and go about it, and people who will like look down on you and be like, but it's like you do like a colon Q or colon WQ to exit, and everyone knows that. And it lets you see who is cool and who is not cool so fast. So little tip that I can recommend. Little life hack. Okay, let's go back a bit. So we were here. Find next and previous. This one can be useful when you want to find next occurrences of something. So it's when you're searching. So you need to search. So Command F and then Command G and Command Shift G. So let's see. So I'm going to do it again with table view. So Command F, table view, and then Command G and Command Shift G. So that's nice. Knowing that if you do return or enter, you're doing the same thing on Command G, but Command Shift G. I'm never sure between G and J. No, it's G in English. J is the other one. Like it's this one, G. So in the search, Command G. And also, oh, what's nice is that even if the focus is outside of the search bar, you can see here the focus is here, but there is still something written in the search. You can still do Command G and Command Shift G to navigate the occurrences. So that's really useful because you don't need to click again and then hit enter again, or click on the two controls here. So that's quite a good one to know. Nice one. What do we have next? Show and hide debug area. Also something that I do a lot in the live streams. So it's Command Shift and Y that shows and hide the debug area. So let's try it. So I'm just going to move it so that you can really see it. And so Command Shift and Y, yep, it does show and hide it. That's kind of useful, especially if when you launch your project, so like this, usually it's going to appear, yes, by default, and sometimes it's like hiding what you want to see. So you can do Command Shift and Y, kind of a nice one. Let's see what we have next. Where are we? Okay, we're here. Multi-cursor, yes. So this one, I've talked about it in videos, in newsletter, email. So it's Control Shift and then the keys, and you can create several cursors to edit multiple lines at the same time. So let's see. For instance, here, so I do Control Shift and then I move the cursor down, but you can see I've created several cursors. So I could do, for instance, like self like this. It's not correct, but if I wanted to do it, I could modify all of the lines together like this. And then if you do Control, you can also, when you do Control, you can select several things. So when you select with Control, it's going to select taking into account the camel case. You can see, for instance, for text properties, it stops before properties. If you do Alt Shift, it's going to select the whole identifier, and if you do Command Shift, it's going to select the whole line. It's having the behavior, but that's the standard behavior of Control, Option or Alt, and Command when selecting stuff. They already they behave that way independently of multiple cursors. But multiple cursors, they can be very useful when you need to edit a lot of lines together. They make you save some time, which is always nice. Plus, it always feels like very satisfying when you make your change, many changes together, like all at once. It feels very satisfying. It's a nice experience. And I see there is another one because you can also do it with your mouse. So you can do Control Shift and then click on several places. So here I'm just doing it at random, but then you can change several places together. So for instance, you could do the same thing here. I don't know if you want to edit the beginning of each line. I don't know why. You just want to add something like this. It's completely wrong, but if you need to do it, you could do it like that, and it can be quite nice. Another good use case for it, even though Xcode now also has a feature for it, but you can put several cursors like this, you can see, before the beginning of each argument of a function declaration and then at the end, and then you hit enter and you split it across several lines. It can be nice, and also it feels very satisfying to make that change. So this one, the multiple cursors, I'm a big user of them. They're really nice. Interface Builder Distance. This one is very useful. I think I shared it on LinkedIn and Twitter a long time ago, and it might have been one of my first viral posts on LinkedIn. And so if you use Option and you over UI elements inside Interface Builder. So that's why I choose. Maybe you've been wondering, why did he choose a UIKit project for this live stream? Because UIKit is less fashionable these days, or rather, I've been picking SwiftUI as examples when showing code examples more and more. The reason is because I knew there would be shortcuts about Interface Builder, so that's why I wanted to have a UIKit project. And so here you can see I have this view. I select it, I press Option, and then when I hover my cursor over the UI image view, I see displayed the distance that the label overview has with respect to the image view. And so it's 11 points horizontally and 199 points vertically. And this is very useful, especially when you want to make sure that your design matches what you have in Figma, for instance. Let me go back to the website. Also, I see a question in the chat, which is question for later. I have never been able to find and replace in multiple files in Xcode. Would be happy to know how to do it. So if you want to change multiple files in Xcode without the refactor and the rename, I'm not sure that there is a way to do it. At least I've never had the use case of wanting to do it. So to be honest, I don't know on that one. If someone knows in the chat, please let us know. But I would have suggested like a refactor or the rename, or also in Xcode, but it's not technically the refactor, but you have the search and replace here, which is quite powerful and can work across file. It works at the level of the Xcode project. Okay, next tip is interface builder views under the cursor. So when you have several views under your cursor, you can get the whole stack of views. So let's see how it works. So it's supposed to be Control, Shift, and click. So let's go back to it. So for instance, here, if I do Control, Shift, and click, you can see I can select, of course, the image view, but also the view behind it and the view controller behind the view. So that's very useful. That's super useful. To be honest, I wish Keynote had this feature because it would save me time when I'm making my videos with the animated code. But that's very useful to be able to select something that is on a lower z-axis on the storyboard. I'm looking at the chat. So yeah, the find and replace is a little bit hidden, but I guess that's what you wanted. And while we're at it, one extra information, I won't demo it because I don't have the code ready in mind. But when you do search and replace in Xcode, you can also use regular expressions, and that makes it very powerful because you can capture a part of what you have searched for and then reuse it in the replace. So that can be very useful. For instance, if you want to turn a function call into calling a property, calling a method, and you want to keep one of the arguments name the same, that can be very powerful. You have a lot of examples on the internet about this, and I need to make a newsletter email about it one day. Actually, you know what? On my channel, I have one of my early videos, one of the first videos on the channel, which is about tips in Xcode or in the refactoring in Xcode. But I think I have an example of it in my early videos on my channel. But I would recommend looking at it because it can be quite powerful for big refactors. It can save you like a lot of time. It has saved me a lot of time in the past. Let me get back to Safari now. So we've seen this tip on interface builder, which was really cool. Next one is open quickly. Oh yes. One of the first things, one of the first shortcuts I learned in Xcode, which is really powerful, it's Command Shift O, which allows you to open quickly. So you can open quickly files. So you can see movie view controller, movie view model, movie cell, etc. But you can also open search for types, for instance. So you can see the type movie is in movies service, but when I search for movie, the type also appeared. So that's extremely useful. You can also find protocols in here, so you can find all of the big declaration. I would say you won't find like methods like calling a method on a table view, but you will find the file names, the protocol names, the actor, the structs, the enums, so all of the type level declarations. So Command Shift O, this one is extremely useful. If there is only one shortcut that you should take away from this live stream, honestly, I think it's this one. It's the one I have used the most in Xcode over the last 10 years, without a doubt. So definitely Command Shift O. That's the one you want to remember. That's the one that will save you so much time, because you don't need to go here and then search here or search here, and it's so much better. Actually, I said search here, but I'm not sure that, no, I don't think that you can actually see. Yeah, I'm moving so that you can see it. I meant search here with the little filter where you could do, for instance, movie like this. By the way, if you didn't know that there is a filter here, there is a filter, and you can search here, and you can even, if you remove it, you even have a history of what you've searched. So it can be super useful. Let me go back to the list of tips. Show view frames. So this one, it's in debug in the simulator, and you can show the frame of the views. So let me go back to the simulator. Okay, I'm gonna go into light mode. It might be easier to see. And so debug. Where was it actually? I've already forgotten. It's debug, view debugging, show view frames. Oh, but so actually it's in Xcode, not in the simulator. So debug, view debugging, and then you do show view frames, and then it shows the frames in the simulator. So that's good to know. It's really weird that I guess it makes sense that it's in Xcode and not the simulator, because I guess you can also see this when you are on the device and not only on the simulator. So this can be quite useful. To be honest, I didn't know about this thing. I didn't know this shortcut. I will show you the one that I did know. I knew the one. Let me go back to simulator. In the simulator, if you do debug and then color blended layers, I knew about this one, but it's the layers. So it's not the frames. The layer is one layer of abstraction down. So like the layer, I think it's the CA layer, and CA layer, so core animation, is under UIKit. So UIKit is a higher level of abstraction, and the frames are a higher level of abstraction. So I knew about this one, but I didn't know about the other one. So that's good to know. You see, that's what I like about these live streams, is that even though I've been using Xcode on an almost daily basis for like 14 years, I'm still learning new things. So I can imagine that for someone who is watching and who is younger to the iOS ecosystem, you must be learning an even bigger amount, an even larger amount of things. But it's always nice when you also learn something yourself during the live stream. This way, you're like, all right, everyone has learned something. It's been a good live. Next tip is about increasing and decreasing font size. So Command plus, Command minus, and then Command Shift 0 to put it back. It's important to put it back because when you move it, then you want to be able to put it back to how it was. So Command plus, Command minus, and then Command Shift 0. No, this one didn't work. So Command Shift 0 didn't work, but at the same time, kind of makes sense because there is no 0 key for me. I need to do like Shift to have the 0. So I'm looking for the key bindings for font. So Command plus. Oh, actually, it's for me to reset, it's Control. So for me, it's Control, Command, and the A with the I think it's the acute accent. So let me see. Yes, it's this one. So like that. What was the shortcut they shared? Okay. Oh, okay. So actually, yeah, I was doing Command Shift, but it was Command Control. So Command Control would have worked because this one is the same key than like this character. It's the 0 key in France. You just need to do Shift to get the 0, but it's the same key. Okay, so that's nice. I knew about Command plus and Command minus. What's really nice is to do about Command Shift 0, because sometimes when you zoom in, then you're like, oh, but what was the right size? And you never sure what was the original right size. And so now you know that you just need to do Command Shift and then 0 to put it back. So it's nice because sometimes I'm like, even during a live stream, I'm like, okay, I would like to show it a little bit bigger, but then I'm like, how do I put it back? And now I know that I can just put it back like this. So it's really nice if you want to quickly adjust the font size during a presentation, but to have the comfort of knowing that you will still be able to put it back like it was, and not be like, was it like this or was it like that? And you're never sure, and it's just so annoying. So that's a good one. That's a good one to learn. I'm really happy that I've learned this one. Let's move on to the next one. Next one is, multi-cursor, the third one. So this one is what? It's option, and then you select an area. Okay, so let's see. Let me go back to Xcode. So for instance, here, I do option, and then I select, like that. So wait, you do it you do it like that. Okay, so you can do it vertically. So that's good to know, you can do it vertically. But the other one was to go over like that. And then once you've done that, what can you do? If I do, for instance, like var, okay, so it does multiple cursors. Okay, so it can be like, it's an alternate. You can do Control Shift and then like this, or you can do Alt also, Alt and then like that. That can be good. You can see that it's very easy to screw it up at the end, so be careful. Also, if you do escape, then you leave the multi-cursor mode. So I guess it shows that you have several options when you want to do multi-cursor. You can also select things like this, I guess, and then you could, but you're going to screw your code. But you can do it. To be honest, I've never used it. I've always used the Control Shift variant, but it's good to know that this one exists. Maybe there are situations where it makes sense to select your code with more using the cursor than the keyboard keys. It's a good one to know. Then fuzzy search. So if you do Control 5, so it's just like Control 6, but to open this one. And then you can do fuzzy search. So it's like, you see, you write NT, but it's going to search not NT in the contiguous position. It's going to search that there is an N, and then maybe other characters, and then a T. So it's interesting. So let's see. So first, remember, we had learned Control 6 to open this one. Control 5 opens that one. Oh, so actually, you can also do like Command 4 for this one. Command 5, okay. So Command 5, and then, for instance, if I type, let me fix this before, because I screwed up something. So Command 5, and if I search MC, actually, it didn't show me movie cell. So maybe the behavior changed, because here it did fuzzy search. For me, it's not doing fuzzy search. So maybe Xcode changed its behavior, actually, or maybe there is an option. Oh, look. So for movies view model, it did fuzzy search because I write movie D, and it found movie and then view model with a D. So actually, sometimes it works, but for others, like, just MC didn't work, but MOC, no. MV, okay, you need to have maybe, I guess, here it expected like 3 characters, so there might be some rules to this fuzzy search that I'm not aware of, but it does exist. Just be aware that the way it works, I don't want to say it's inconsistent, but there are some rules that I'm not aware of, but at least you can do Command 5, Control 5 to search among the files that are at the current directory level. So that's good to know. What's next? Adding or removing breakpoints. Oh, that's an interesting one. So this one, Control \, knowing that there is no / key on the French keyboard, I'm not sure it's gonna work. So let's see. I guess there is one. There is a remapping. So let's search for it. So breakpoint. How do you add breakpoint? Create breakpoint. So for me, it's command and then back quote. So like this. So yes, command back quote, and then I can add or remove a breakpoint. So that's nice. If you don't want to do this, like when you add a breakpoint, you can click here and then you can drag to remove it. Well, if it's there, you can just do this. So either command / or command back quote, but you can do it like this. I didn't know there was a shortcut to add breakpoints. Honestly, I've always been doing it the way where you click here and then you move it and then you just drag it to remove it. But good to know that there is a shortcut for this. Next one is appearance preview in Interface Builder. So you can trigger between light mode and dark mode in Interface Builder. So let's go and find it. I did Command Shift 0, but I meant Command 0. So like that. So here I have my main storyboard, and so you can see, oh yes, by default I guess is the theme I have in Xcode and by extension in macOS. So I'm in dark mode, and if I click, I can toggle it, so to go from light to dark, from light to dark. To be honest, maybe it's force of habit, but I always find that Interface Builder, it's easier to use it when you have the light version, because I don't know, like when you do like, I guess I find that some of the visuals they contrast more over the white background than the dark background, but that might just be like force of habits. But at least if you want to see how it looks like in dark mode, you can do it without launching the app in the simulator. Of course, you still want to validate by launching the app in the simulator, and even better on a real device, but it's good to be able to do it just with the flick of a button, just to see if things are happening as they should or not. For the following tip, reindenting. This one is very useful. So Control I, I've used it a lot. And then there is this one, which is Command Shift and then one of the direction key. So let's see. First, we're going to do Command I. Oh, okay, it's because you can select before you do it. All right. So I guess I get it. So let's go like here, for instance, and let's make a mess of things. Yeah, like that. And so if I hit Control and I, it's supposed to reindent. It didn't. Why? Let me search for indent. I know it has a different name than a reindent, but you can also find it with, I think it's in structure, or maybe you need to select the code for it to appear. Where is it? It's not in, is it in, no, it's not in refactor, but if you select and then you do Control I, so, okay, so you need to select first. You need to select. Okay. And I was looking to see, because when you do it, it's in the editor. So it's editor structure. Okay, so it's indeed Control I, but you need to select before. All right. And so, okay, so by doing command Shift and down, you select the whole file, and then you do Control I to reindent. So I'm just going to show it again by selecting this part and then doing Control I. So this one is extremely useful. I've used it more than once. Even though like a good practice also is to use something like I think it's called Swift Format, that formats your code automatically, and then you run it as a pre-commit hook, so that when your code is committed, it always applies the same indentation rules among other rules. But that's a really nice way to not end up in pull request saying in a pull request like indentation is wrong. It's not what you would call a comment on a pull request with a lot of added value. But Control I, definitely one that I've used a lot before. And so, oh, okay, so apparently maybe you can only just select part of the struct. So let's just see. If I put my cursor on the struct, no, I was like, maybe if I select, actually, no, you need to select what you want to indent. All right. So this one also, one of the most useful one, because it's just like doing it by hand is so annoying, and it's so easy to do with the shortcut. So you really want to use it. Next one is print current view controller. So, oh, it talks about using symbolic breakpoints. So I've talked about them quite a lot in videos on my channel, in newsletter, emails also. But creating a symbolic breakpoint is really nice because it allows you to create a breakpoint that will trigger when a method is called. And since in Objective-C you can catch all methods like that, you can use it even for internal methods defined inside UIKit. So here what they suggest is that you put a breakpoint on UI view controller, the method view did appear, and then you PO the first argument, which is self, and then it's going to show in the console what is the current view controller. So let's try and do it. So we're going to do command 8 to open the breakpoint, then new symbolic breakpoint. Sorry, that might have showed outside of the screencast. So the symbol is going to be UI view controller view did appear. So like this. So it's a weird syntax that is inspired from Objective-C. And then you're going to add an action, and it will be PO $arg1 like this. And then we will also, you want to select automatically continue after evaluating actions because you don't want to pause the execution every time a view controller is displayed. So let's see. Here you can see, so navigation controller is called, then app architecture movies view controller, and if I move, you can see we have the movie details view controller. So that can be a nice addition if you want to know where you're at. This won't work in Objective-C, so in SwiftUI. So be warned. But if you're doing UIKit, if you're working on a UIKit app and you want to know every time which view controller is displayed without the need, because you can also capture the view hierarchy and then you have the information you can see here in the view hierarchy. But on a big app, capturing the view hierarchy can take some time. On a device, it tends to fail more often than not. So it's good to have this info in the debug console. And by the way, with the same approach, you can also be able to write a message on the dialog method of UI view controller. This way, if when you pop a view, the message isn't displayed, it probably means that there is a memory leak in your app. So I made a video about it. I think it's called the ultimate tip to catch memory leaks almost 2 years ago now. And actually, I think it's still one of the most popular videos on the channel. If you don't know it, you might want to check it because it's the tip is interesting, and the approach of using symbolic breakpoints to build this kind of custom debugging tools is also interesting because you can apply it to other instances. And I've been masking all of the panels using the shortcuts, and I'm very proud I've been able to remember all of the shortcuts to do it like a real computer geek. So I'm really proud of myself right now. So let's move. Where were we? Move breakpoint to user. When you move a breakpoint to the user, this breakpoint will be available in all of your projects. So you can do that. So maybe I should have kept, because it would have been a good example, so I should have kept it. So I'm going to recreate it very quickly. UI view controller, view did appear like that. I had the action of doing PO $arg1. And so you could do, so it's control click, or just, you can do right click or control click and then move breakpoint to, and you can see that you can move it at the user level, and it means that it will be in all of your Xcode projects you open with your Xcode. So that's good to know. That's very good to know. To be honest, I've never used it, but I mean, like, I worked a lot on the photo room app in Xcode, and there is only one project, so I didn't need to have more than one project at once. But in my previous job, I did work on several projects, and it would have been useful to use this feature of Xcode. So I guess that's something that you probably want to know and want to use, because for this kind of helper breakpoints that are more like debugging tools, and they are not specific to a given project because they work at the UIKit level, for instance, that's something that might be very, very useful indeed. So I'm going to leave the breakpoint here and not remove it in case we need it for another tip. That was a very good one. Reveal in Project Navigator. So this one, I've used it several times by doing a right click, not by doing the shortcut of Command Shift and J, but it can be useful if, like, well, imagine that you have this file open and you ended up here maybe by doing a lot of command clicking into several files, and you ended up like here, and you want to know where is the file, where is this file in my project. You can do Command Shift and J, and you can see it shows it where it is. And the other way to do it is to do right click, I think right click here, and then navigate, reveal in Project Navigator. So I've used it a lot, but with the right click approach, and it can be so useful. Like for instance, imagine, I don't know, like you're in the app delegate. No, not in the app delegate. You're in the coordinator and you're like, okay, so here I command click, I have my coordinator, main coordinator. Here I have a movies view controller, I do a command click. Okay, I get movies view controller, all right. I mean movies view controller. Where is this? You can see it because it's a small project, but you don't know where it is. Let's imagine everything is closed. You can do either command shift J or right click, navigate, reveal in Project Navigator, and then you know where it is. So that can be super useful. I've used this one more than once. It's a very good tip to know. What's next? Let's see. I think we've reached like the middle of the list almost. So I was saying almost 2 hours of a live stream. I think I'm not that far from that prediction. Open in new editor. So I showed it to you right at the beginning. So you do Alt, Shift, and then click. And then you can choose where you want to have the new editor. Oh, I didn't know about the Alt Shift. So the one I knew about is when you do Alt, so Alt or Option, I'm holding it down and then I click on Movies View Model and you can see it opens it into a new editor on the right. And if I do Alt and they say Alt and Shift, so Alt Shift, I click on Movie View Model and then I can decide if I want it. Okay, so if I hit the right key, it's gonna put it on the right. But if I close it, and I do it again, and then I choose bottom, so the down key, and I hit enter again, it puts it on the bottom. Okay, and I guess I can also do it like that to put it here, for instance. You can put editors wherever you want. Okay, so that's a good one. That's a good one. I would say most of the time you will want to have them side by side because if you have a 16:9 or 16:10 aspect ratio screen, that's what is the easiest in terms of legibility. But maybe if you have, well, once again, if you're one of the lucky few who have the XDR display in portrait mode, then maybe you want to have your files. I mean, I say the XDR display, but you can also put a regular screen also in portrait mode. Then maybe having two files on top of each other makes more sense. Like this, it feels weird. Actually, if you are old enough to have used Xcode, so I think it was before Xcode 4, so up until Xcode 3, it used to be that I think the Explorer for the files was here, and then the file was here. So it felt quite small, and the screens were smaller back then. Like you would get like 20-inch iMacs and things like that. So it used to feel quite small to edit a file in Xcode back then. But maybe I just didn't know like the right way to do it because I used this version of Xcode for only a few months, and then Xcode 4 was released, and it started to put everything into one app. Because before, when you wanted to create a view, interestingly, it seems that it remembers. No, it just it put it on the bottom, but I don't want that. I wanted to say that in Xcode now we are used to having interface builder inside Xcode, but before Xcode 4 it was actually a separate executable, and when you would command click, you would actually command click from a window of that separate executable to a window of Xcode, and this kind of like inter-app communication felt quite magical the first time that you use this, especially when like me you were a Windows user before. You were like, wow, this works, like apps can communicate like this and everything works without crashing. It was quite impressive. Okay, let's see what we have next. Search documentation for selected text. So wow, it's a big one. Control Option Command and then Shift to search for the documentation. So let's see. I'm gonna close all of this. So for instance, UI view controller. So Control Option Command and Shift. Okay, it does it. It opens the doc right at the right place. Personally, I've been doing Alt Shift a lot, and then you scroll down and then you do like open in developer documentation. So it also works. Oh, I guess what's interesting is that no, Control Alt Shift, Control Alt Command / it searches for it. So then you need to select it if you want to see it, but it searches for it. So it can be a good one to know. Personally, I've always used Alt and click, and it has always worked for me. But that's a good one to know. To be honest, I'm sure that this one I will never remember it the day that I will have a reason to use it. And yeah, like the option click is the easiest one. It's my go-to definitely. What do we have next? Jump to next or previous change. So it's when you have a change in the sense of Git changes. So control slash and control backslash and control I. That's interesting. So let me put a few changes, random stuff. And so if I do, so it works. Okay. Control backslash. So for me, it's control back quote and control I. Control I. Oh no, maybe control L. No, this one doesn't work. But control backslash does work for me. Let me look for the other one then. So it's for changes, or rather maybe change. So control next change, okay. And oh, it's control and pound. Where is the pound? Oh, okay, so it's with shift. Okay, so it's like control back quote for me and control shift back quote. Okay, so that one works. I didn't know that one. So, and for the US, it's control backslash and control. I guess I don't know if it's like pipe or L or capital I. So I'm not sure. Actually, you will need to search into the settings of Xcode to be sure, or just like try the free possibilities. But you can do that. One thing that's worth noting is that at work, I had to disable the fact that Xcode uses Git. So here, I had to disable it because enabling it, it would make my Mac randomly freeze for a couple seconds every like hour or so. So I had to disable it, and I was quite sad that I had to disable it. But if you also have this weird issue where your Mac seems to freeze for a couple seconds every hour, try disabling Xcode watching the Git repository. That might be because of this. My best guess is that there is some operation that happens every hour, and for some reason it runs on the main thread when it shouldn't. But that's the thing. And what's weird is that it really it freezes not only Xcode but the entire Mac. So everything is frozen. It's so annoying. And that was the culprit, at least for me. So this shortcut, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to use it at work. Oh yes, the debug gauges, they are super useful. So let me show them to you. So when you run your app from Xcode, and you go here, so in this inspector right here, so what gets open when you it's what gets open when you trigger a breakpoint. Actually, I triggered my symbolic breakpoint because when I recreated it, I forgot to check the box to automatically continue after evaluating the actions. Let me get back. And so when you click here on CPU, you get these nice gauges and graphics about percentage of CPU being used, and with comparisons. Same thing for memory use, disk, and network. So memory one is especially useful if you want to see if you have a memory leak. But the four ones are quite useful. It's good to know that they exist. I think I've mostly used the memory one, but if you do something that is very intensive, you might want to check your CPU consumption. So that's a good one. I'm wondering, when you run on device, if you have also one about battery usage. I'm not sure. Maybe you do, but I'm not sure. But you have at least these four indicators, I guess. These four dimensions that you can analyze. You're saying, how did you find that? Can you tell me what you're referring to? I'm not sure, honestly. I've seen so many tips in 1 hour that I've already forgotten what I was talking about, like half an hour or 5 minutes ago. So can you tell me which tip you were mentioning, and then I will tell you how I learned about it. Oh, maybe it's like how I learned about the fact that it was freezing, that Git was, I mean, Xcode observing the Git was freezing the Mac. I'm not the one who found it. It's one of my colleague who find out about it. I guess he searched on Google or things like that, but he's the one who find out. So I don't know how he did it actually, but kudos to him because it was a very good catch and it did solve the issue. Oh, column breakpoint. These ones are pretty cool. So I did a full video about them actually, something like in May or June of 2022. So it's a feature that was added in Xcode like 2 years ago. It's especially useful when you have closures, several closures defined on one line, because you can put a column to a breakpoint to a specific column. And this way, the breakpoint will only be called when that closure here is being called. So you know what? We're going to try it just here in the app delegate. So we're doing things like old school. So I'm defining an array of 3 elements. Then I'm doing map. So I'm gonna do the classic stuff. So like you square it, and then you filter, I don't know, $0 dot is multiple of 2, something like that. And so here I can do a right click, create colon breakpoint. So if I relaunch, normally the breakpoint should hit yes. And you can see it triggers only in the filter. If I had put the breakpoint here, it would have triggered when you declare when you define the array first. Maybe then when this closure is called, maybe then when this closure is called, it's not even for sure. So in the past, you would have needed to put each element on a dedicated line to be able to put a breakpoint on it. With the colon breakpoint, it's even better because it gets triggered for the specific colon. It's also even more useful when your closure is asynchronous, because then you are sure that it will be triggered, that the breakpoint is triggering when the closure is called and not when it is defined. And so here you can see the argument. So I have 1, and then if I keep running, so because I moved the code, I lost the breakpoint, so I'm going to relaunch it. You can see the arguments, it's 1, and then it's 4, so it's indeed the square, so it's indeed being called after the call to map, 4 and then 9. So you can see colon breakpoints, really useful, especially if you write code that leverages this kind of syntax a lot. Let me put the code back how it was. You're saying, Amir, I did a quick video on colon breakpoints. Did I use them in a real work since I did the video? I'm sure I've used them at some point or another, probably when debugging issues around one-line closures. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of writing several closures on one line. I'm more of I prefer to put them each on their line because it's easier, especially when reviewing code. But I think one reason where they would be useful colon breakpoints is, as I was saying, when you have a closure that is asynchronous and you want to make sure the breakpoint triggers when the closure is called and not when it is defined. Then it's really useful. I haven't worked on a code base that use a lot of such closures because the code bases I've been using, they were using mostly async await. But if you work in a code base that uses RX Swift, that uses Promise Kit, that uses completion handlers, or even Combine, this can be quite useful. So I would say it's kind of like the thing that you use maybe like, I don't know, once a month, once every like fortnight, this kind of time frame. You don't use it every day, but when you can use it, it's nice because it saves you some time. It was a nice addition to Xcode. What do we have next? Next, we have deactivate or reactivate colon breakpoint. So, okay, so if you click on them and then if you move them, so that's just how a regular breakpoint works. So I'm just going to put the code back just to show you. So you can add the colon breakpoint. And then if you click on it, you can I was about to say de-enable, but disable it. And then if you click again, you re-enable it. And then you can just drag it to remove it. And let me show you just to make sure, but if I do Command 8, the colon breakpoint, they also appear here. So you can also control them from the dedicated inspector and remove them from there. So basically, they behave just like regular breakpoints would. But it's good to still point it out. Then delete to end of line. So Control and K is going to delete to the end of the line. So let's have a look. So let's see, we are here, and I do Control and K. Oh yes, it does it. To be honest, I've never used it because I'm more of a school of doing so first Command Shift and then the right key to select the whole line and then backspace. But you can do Command key. So that's a Control key, sorry. So that's a good one to know. I guess it's Control key for clear. Good one to know. I guess it can be useful. Not gonna lie, I'm still gonna stay off the course of where you do this and then you write whatever you want. But that's a good one. That's a good one to know. You learn something new every day. What do we have next? Fix all issues. Okay, so when you have several issues and you want to fix them and they have a fix possible, so you can do, oh, that's a big one. Control Option Shift and F to fix everything. So let me create issues in my code. So for instance, here, you know what? I'm going to do multiple cursors. Amir, you're saying Control K is how you clear terminal. Like for years, I've been writing clear, like calling the command clear to clear the terminal, and now you tell me that there is a shortcut for it. It's going to change my life. I'm doing a lot of terminal stuff these days because I work on something else than the iOS app at Photoroom recently. Whoa. I'm going to I'm also going to remember it and to try this Control K thing tomorrow because it might save me not a lot of time because writing clear and doing Control K is not that much of a time difference, but it's funny when you learn something like that you should have known for years. You're like, oh, it's glad that I've learned it, but also like, oh, I spent like 15 years doing stuff without knowing about it. You feel a little bit like self-conscious about yourself. But thank you for sharing it. Okay, so now I've screwed up the code in the sense that we have errors that have fixed it, as you can see. And so if I do the shortcut Control, Option, Command, and F, indeed, it applied them all at once. To be honest, if you're in a situation where you need to apply a lot of fix-it, you might not be in the best of situations. I've never been into that situation, to be honest. But I guess it can happen if you do a command paste or this kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, it's not working, but I would like it to. I mean, you know that these errors are normal, and you just want to fix them, so it can be nice. Another case where it can be nice is, I guess, maybe, I don't know, like there is an update of Xcode and some behavior is not triggering errors and you want to also apply all of the fix-it. So you can do it. Now you know it. That's a good one. That's a good one to know. I guess when there are queues, it's not that big of an issue. When there are like 10 or 20 issues in a file, it might be a good one to use. Just before you use it, make sure that you know what you're doing because fix-it is not meant to sweep issues under the rug. Make sure that you understand the fix and that you understand why you've written wasn't working correctly, because otherwise you're not making a gift for your future self. You'll just like sweep something under the rug and you're going to trip over it at one point or another. But good shortcut to know. Reveal in Changes Navigator. So this one, of course, I guess only works in if you have enabled Git. So if you do Command Shift M on a change, so let's see. For instance, I'm going to change this to I was about to say to a let, but it won't work because you cannot have it won't work if I do that. But you know what? I'm gonna go into a movie service, and here I'm gonna change these things to vars, for instance. And so if I select that line and I do Command Shift M, it shows me the inspector about Source Control Navigator, and then you can see the changes and you can navigate them and you can see what's been changed in your code. To be honest, I've never used this. I've never used this feature of Xcode at all, so I guess it can be useful, but I've more been of the school where I use a software to handle everything that's Git related. So either source tree or Tower, but I've never relied on the source control of Xcode actually. So I've never been a user of this. But if you are a user of it, well, know that Command Shift M can bring you to the list of changes. But me, I will keep opening Tower to see my changes because that's just the habit I've taken. What do we have next? Embed selected text. So we select some text. Oh yes, this one is super useful. This one, it was added not that long ago in Xcode, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and you're gonna see it's so nice. It's like you select some content, and if you open a parenthesis, it's going to put your selection between parentheses. Same thing for double quotes, same thing for curly braces, and I would say same thing for angle braces. And you see, you can even do it like recursively, like this. So it's kind of funny when you do it like that, but it makes you win so much time if you want to turn something into a string, put it into a tuple, this kind of stuff. This shortcut is really, really, really useful. Even imagine you're writing Swift UI and you have like, I don't know, I'm going to just write some code here, but you're writing Swift UI and you have some string like that. You can select it and then you can open parentheses, wrap it, and then you do text like this, and that's it. You've turned it into a text, and with a low amount of keyboard manipulation. So that's a pretty cool one. This one I've used it a lot, and you don't even need to remember a shortcut. You just need to remember that when you select something, then you can wrap it around other characters quite easily. So this one definitely one that I would recommend. It also works, no, not for back quotes. It doesn't work for back quotes. It works for single quotes also. What do we have after that one, which was very useful? We have the fold unfold. So folding and unfolding code. So option, command left and right to fold and unfold. So let's see. So for instance, I have this method and I can, no, it's command option, left and right. And then I guess I have to go here to unfold. Same thing at the movies service. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So you just do the same thing as if you had clicked like here on the folding ribbon. So I don't use, to be honest, I don't use folding that much. Yeah, it doesn't work when I do it. Oh no, it's because I'm using the wrong. I was using the wrong key combination. So it does work. I don't use it a lot. Folding, mostly because I'm kind of like the school of thought that if you need to use folding to find your bearings in your code, maybe it's because your code is not split enough. The ribbon is hidden by default. So how do you show the ribbon? You do into the settings, text editing, and then you have something called folding ribbon. So you need to click on this if you want to have it. It's true that it's hidden by default. And I think that I've also hidden it by default. So at some point when I do when I record videos, sometimes I find it to be prettier without the folding ribbon. But actually, let's see. The shortcut still works even if you disable the folding ribbon. So that's good to know actually. Actually, I'm gonna disable it because I don't think it's that pretty, and I don't know, I don't like to see it in the frame. But it's just because I might be a bit too perfectionist about what I show in the frame. It's not that much of a big deal, but being able to fold like this is nice. Just keep in mind that if you need to use it a lot, it might be a sign that there is something wrong with your code and you should like split it more, abstract things more. But it can be useful occasionally. If you want to focus on a specific part of a method, it can be useful to be like, okay, I don't want to focus on this. I just want to look. Sorry, I don't want to focus on this, but just like I don't know, like. I want to focus on this part. I don't know why, but that can be useful. Or also, if you want, no, I see one reason why it can be very useful to fold. It's if you're presenting a code to colleagues, for instance, and you want to direct their attention to something, you can be like, okay, so this part, don't look, I want to talk about this. This can be useful when presenting. Folding can be useful, and maybe I should even use it more than I do. But that's a good one to know. And I didn't know this shortcut to be able to fold and unfold. And honestly, knowing about it, maybe I will find myself using it a bit more. We'll see. We'll see in the coming weeks, in the coming months. But that's a good one. That's a good one to know. I'm glad that I've learned it. Okay, what do we have next? Interface builder guides. So if you do command underscore control command, I guess it's L, you can add horizontal guides to a scene, and you can also add a vertical guide. I didn't know about that. I'm learning this for the first time. So how would it work? Let's see. So let me put it again. So they said command and underscore. No, but it's not something else for me. How is it called? It's called a guide interface builder. So let me search for something I don't know, like guide. Oh, so it's so it's command and underscore indeed. And the other one is control command and pound. So I'm going to try this one, which might be easier. Okay, so it did put one, and then you can move it. And I guess the interest is then you can, if I add a view, I guess, no, he didn't mean to put it there. You know what? It's not the right view to do it. You know what? I'm gonna do it here on the launch screen one because it's going to be easier. So how was it? It was like that. Then I move it here, for instance. And so when I add a view like label, for instance, I guess I can snap to this guide. Okay, that's interesting. With constraints, I'm not sure it's that useful. Maybe it's a remnant of the days before the constraints. If you remember, we talked about it on the live stream about what translates auto-resizing mask into layouts actually does. We talked about the fact that in Xcode you didn't, and in iOS you didn't always had constraints. They were introduced with iOS 5, if I remember correctly, either iOS 5 or iOS 6. I'm not sure actually, but one of the two of them, maybe iOS 6, but I'm not sure. And so maybe before that, since you would hard code positions, it would make sense to have these guides. Now, I mean, you see, like you put the guide as 40, but you're going to put a constraint as 40 anyway in that case. So I would say it's less useful, but I had no idea you could do it. And then to remove it, you just drag it. Okay. So good one. I'm not sure I would ever need to use it because I've never needed to use it before, to be honest. But it's good to know that there is this possibility that, I mean, you have this feature in software like Photoshop, or I think even on Keynote you might be able to do it. I had no idea you could do it also in Interface Builder, but that's a good one to know. I didn't expect to learn this this evening, but that's a nice one to know. Creating and renaming a window tab. Okay. So when you do Command T, you can open a tab in Xcode. I've done it a lot, but always unwillingly. I wanted to do something else, and then I did Command T. Or like, I thought I was in Safari, and actually Xcode had the focus. So you can do that. So let's see. If I open another tab, and then you can rename it by doing so Option Shift Command T. Okay. So Option Shift Command T like that, and then you can rename it like tab 2 like that. Okay. You can't even double click or simple click or do a right click. So you need to do this shortcut. Okay. I don't use tabs, so I'm not sure how it could be useful, but I guess if you have a structure where you have several tabs for several things, being able to give them a name might be more than useful. I just feel that this is the poster child of a feature that is like hidden and not discoverable at all. So I think there's a lesson to learn that if you have a feature that is that behaves the same way in your app, it's a sign that it's not discoverable, and basically no one will use it because, I mean, what's the proportion of Xcode users that first use tabs and then that know about this feature existing? To be honest, if you use tabs, if you're an enthusiast tab user, maybe you're more likely to know about it, but it still feels like a feature that is not discoverable at all. Oh yes, Command P to print by mistake. Yes, this one. Let me put you on the live. Command P to print. Another story time, when I was at my first software engineering job, actually I wasn't doing iOS, I was doing like Java and Liferay, and it was awful. But at some point, I was in my emails on Outlook on a Windows computer. I was telling you it was awful. And I don't know how I did it, but I wanted to print an email, and I actually printed my entire inbox. So like the printer in the other open space started to print a lot of things, and I had just printed my entire inbox over the printer. So kind of a fun story. It happens faster than you think, and when printers are fast, canceling it, like you try to cancel it, but you've already like wasted like 20 or 30 sheets of paper. So it's kind of funny when it happens. I still remember it, even though it happened like 9 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. That was a funny one. Okay, what do we have next? Here, oh yes, toggling dark mode. This one I've used a lot in the simulator, especially during live streams, and I think I've also shared this one on social media. So Command, Shift, and A. So let me relaunch the app in the simulator. I hope I haven't broken it after all of the changes I've made. Actually, I think I did it like earlier when I switched from from dark to light. So Command Shift A on the simulator, you switch from light to dark. It's very nice, and it allows you to see the shift happen in real time to make sure that it's fluid and everything. So kind of nice and very useful one. Very useful one. What do we have next? Toggle changes repos. So toggle between changes and repositories in the source control navigator with Command Q. Okay, so we saw before that Command 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. would open the different inspectors. And if you do Command Q, then you switch tabs inside the source control inspector, which is on Command Q. So it's good to know that you can do that. I don't know if you can do it with like others, where you can switch between several modes. I think it's the oh yes, you can do it also with local on cloud build, so on Command 9. I think it's the only one where you can do it because it's the only ones where you have more than one tab. So that's a good one to know. That was a quick one, but an interesting one. Even though, like I told you, like I don't use source control within Xcode, so I know that I will never use this one. Kickstarter back project. Okay, so this one is a promo. So since I'm using the website as a source, I'm going to Reddit to give them a bit of promo. So they started a quick Kickstarter project to print decks of Xcode tips learning cards. So if you want to back the project, you have a link. So you know what? I'm just going to open it. So unfortunately, it didn't succeed. But I don't know if you can buy them or not. But honestly, if you can buy them and you have an iOS team, buying the physical cards and having them like in your office, that might be a nice thing to have lying around the office. So if you like the idea and you want to consider it, honestly, I think it's also a great way to support the person who created all of these nice drawings. So that's definitely a great idea, and I'm a bit sad to see that the project wasn't successful on Kickstarter because it was a pretty cool idea. Next one is to improve the debug output. So in the settings of Xcode, in themes and console, you can change the font color. So let me see it. I'm not sure I want to do it because I don't want to break my Xcode. Let's see. So console, and then so it was debugger console output. Okay. So for now, it's actually it's white, so I can change it. I can put it back on white later, so I can change the. Oh yes, you can see it changes color. So if you want to put it in a color that's a little bit more like visible, I guess it can be useful. I guess it can be especially useful if I don't know, like if you have a project where for some reason your console is flooded by stuff that is not super like useful, or you feel like you lack visibility, you can do it. You can do it like that. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't know that one at all. So I'm glad to have learned it. But it makes sense that you can change. You have a lot of control over the way content is displayed in Xcode. By the way, if you were wondering which theme I use Presentation Dark, which is one of the built-in themes for all of my content. I think I've just changed the background. It's not pure black by default. I've put it to pure black because I think it looks better on video, especially since iPhones have OLED screens, and iPad have also like screens with very good contrast. Same for I mean most Apple devices have very good contrast. So having a pure pure black background is better. I feel so. This is the only change I've made. But besides that, I have the native presentation dark theme. Let's go back to the list of tips. This one is very useful to find a problematic constraint by the fact that you can filter using the memory address of the broken constraint. So for this, we are gonna need to you know what? Actually, I can show it to you in another way, because here we have addresses of view controllers. So what I can do, I can copy the address of this view controller right here, the movies view controller. Then I can capture the interface of the app, and I can paste the address here, and you can see that I have it. It's the only one that's left. So it's the only one that stayed visible. And I'm gonna try and do it with a constraint, with a broken constraint also. So let me go to the main storyboard. If I want to break the constraint, it could be very easy. I can just do a constraint for width that makes no sense. Like width equal, I need to change it. I'm gonna say width equal 200, which doesn't make sense because I also want to have the view pinned to the leading and trailing trailing borders. So now I should see something in the debug that says, yes, this constraint will be broken because it's the wrong constraint. So I copy its memory address, I capture the view hierarchy, and then I'm going to paste here, and you can see it identified the constraint. And I can see what's important. Let me zoom in. Is that when I select it, you can see it being selected here on let me put it like that. Yeah, you can see it being selected right here. So it's clearer for me which constraint is failing. It can be very useful when you have a controller which is quite complex with lots of constraints. Being able to zero in on the constraint that's failing is very useful. And the way you do it is because you have the memory address being printed here in where is it? Where was it? Yes, here. We have the memory address being printed here. And so we can paste it here in the filter. And this way we zero in on the faulty constraint. So this tip is extremely useful. I've used it in the past. And more generally, the idea with this tip is that when you capture the view hierarchy, you can filter using memory addresses. And there are several situations where the debug output will give you as the only information, or nearly the only information, the memory address. And you might be like, okay, what do I do with this? You can actually use it here. Just be mindful that these addresses, they change every time you relaunch your app, so they won't stay the same from one launch to another. So don't be surprised if at the next launch your search no longer works. You will need to copy the new address and paste it back here. But besides that, it's a great tip and one that I would definitely recommend using. All right, put Xcode like it was before. what do we have next? This one was really cool. This one was really cool. No, this one I've covered. So library SF symbol. So when you need to find the name of an SF symbol, you can do Command Shift and L and then search for the name. So let's see. If I do image, I guess it's no, it's UI image because we are not in Swift UI. System name like that. And so here, and they said to do Command Shift and L. Command Shift and L. Okay. And I guess it's, where is it? Oh, it's here. So yes, then you need to select this thing here. So this tab here. So, and here then you can browse SF symbols. So I don't know, like for instance, if I want to have like, I'm doing pencil. I think it's what they did also. I was thinking about people, but I can just double click it and then I have the icon. And let's try and do people just so that I go with my ID. You can see we have the full name like this. So that's a good one to know, especially because you might have installed the app. There is an app called SF Symbol Browser, which I have downloaded and installed, and I use. And I've used it quite a lot. It's quite a nice app, but it's good to know that you don't even need to install like this app. You can just browse the SF symbol catalog using this nice little trick. So that's a good one. That's a good one to know. That's a really nice one. Then simulator add image. Oh yes, this one is very useful. I won't show it to you. Yes, actually I can show it to you because I have an image. It's interesting. So you will see an image, which is a video I will release tomorrow. So you're going to know in exclusivity what will be the video I will release tomorrow. But if you need to add, imagine that you work on an app like Photoroom, for instance, that operates on images. It can be nice to have, let me just check. I just want to check, yes. Okay. Just wanted to check, I don't know that there wasn't anything weird in the camera roll, but there is nothing weird. There is only the default images. So let's imagine that you want to add an image that you want to use inside an app. An easy way to do it is to take an image and just drag and drop it, and it's going to be added. So I just drag and dropped it over the simulator, and it's been added to the photo app on the simulator. And you can see in exclusivity what tomorrow's video will be about. So that's really useful. This one I've used it because, like I said, on Photoroom, if I use these images, it's not perfect because it's not the kind of images that Photoroom is mostly used for. So I want to have images of products, of people. So being able to drag and drop a set of images is extremely useful. So that's a very good tip, especially since like it's super easy to do, but it's so easy that if you don't know about it, you might be thinking, how do I do it? You might search for an import command or whatever, but it's really intuitive, just like drag and drop, and you're good. Okay, what do we have next? Open interface guidelines. So if you do Command Shift H in Xcode, apparently, it's going to open the human interface guidelines. So let's see that. And then I saw a question in the chat that I will answer. So yep, it works. So you do Command Shift H and it opens the human interface guidelines. So I guess Apple really wants to make it super easy to be able to check when you have a doubt. So just know about it. So Command Shift H for human interface guidelines. It just opens the URL in Safari. So that's quite a good one. I saw a good question, which was, can these drag and drop things work for other files as well, like PDF or JSON? Good question. I would say best way is to try. I don't have a PDF on hand, so I cannot try it. But I would say maybe it does, and then it will put it into the Files app, something like that. So that might be able to work. But to be honest, I've never tried it. So I would expect it to work and put it into the Files app. But actually, I'm not sure. So I will let you try it, and you can tell me if it worked. But that would be cool if it worked. Next tip is about showing non-localized strings. So the idea is that if you have strings which are not localized, Um, oh, they will become uppercase if they have not been localized. Okay, so that's interesting. So I don't think I have localized anything in my current app. I'm not also sure that there are any things to localize. Maybe there are titles. Let's see. Otherwise, I will add a title to the first view. Yes, upcoming movies. So there is this thing. Let's see. I don't think. Yeah, there is no localizable strings file. So what we can do is that we can edit the scheme, and apparently it's in the options. Show non-localized strings. All right. Let's run it again. And you can see now it's all uppercase to show us that this is not localized. So that's kind of a nice one. That's kind of a nice one. I don't know if it also works if you, I guess even if you've created custom wrappers for, sometimes like instead of calling ns localized string for key, people create nice properties so you can call localized on a string. I guess it would work because we are past the point where the code has been compiled, so that would make sense. So that's pretty useful, honestly. That's pretty useful. I might have heard of it in the past and then forgotten. I don't think I've ever used it, but if you're ever asked to work on an app where localization was done in either in a poor way or in a not very rigorous way, and you're asked to audit the app, it can be a great way to just see to have them like pop at to have them like really pop at you because they will be in uppercase, so they will be very visible. So that's a good one that I didn't know about, and that can be very useful if you ever need to audit an app and find all of the strings which are not localized. Because even if in the code you try to localize everything, it's always easy to miss something, or to miss, like, I don't know, like one string where the key was built using a special function and it was not visible as a not local. It wasn't obvious in the code that it was not localized. So this one can be cool, and maybe they won't mention it in the tips, but also, and we saw it in the 30 tips to be a better iOS developer, there is also an accessibility inspector in Xcode that allows you to see what's to see more easily what the activity layer sees and what could be missing. So this tool is also very useful when you need to audit. Oh, this one, I love it. This one, I think I covered it in a video. Is that so in the simulator, you can record and you can also save as a GIF. So in the simulator, when you do Command R, you start a recording. Be aware that it's very easy to start a recording and then not realize it and end up with a file that's several gigabytes. It happened to me because, like, you want to do Command R to build, but the focus is not on Xcode, it's on the simulator, so it starts recording and then it keeps recording for hours. So it happened to me in the past. But still, Command R, start recording, then stop, and then you can do right click to say what's going to happen. By default, it saves to desktop, but you can also save. So it saves the video to desktop, but you can also save as animated GIF. And if you do Alt, it will save both as video and animated GIF. So it's quite a useful feature. The recording, I will still give one caveat of it, is that if I remember it correctly, when it records the video, it records at 60 FPS, but the GIF, I think it's only at 30 FPS. So animations can look really janky. So personally, when I've used this, I was recording a video and then I was manually turning the video into a GIF with a tool that's called GIFski that you can find on the App Store. Because this way the GIF, I could put it at 50 FPS and the animations look better. But being able to record what's happening in the terminal and get a video from it can be very useful. Typically, a use case where I've used it a lot is when making a pull request or a merge request to your colleagues to show a demo of the feature. You record a video, so either on device using screen recording or on simulator using this feature. This way your colleagues can see the feature in action. I found that it brings so much value and it's so easy to make it. You've seen how easy it is to make it. So I would really recommend to do it. And then the GIF can be useful if you want to include it maybe on a web page, in a wiki, maybe on an email. But for the GIF, I would recommend to get the video and then convert as a GIF with a higher frame rate than the one that Xcode and the simulator will produce, because a GIF with a low frame rate, animations don't look good, and it's really not nice. And yeah, you were saying, so more files are quite big to share on Slack. That's true. GIF files can be quite big. Usually, a GIF like this, since there is only like black and white, maybe it will be lower in size. But GIF is not particularly optimized in terms of color compression. So I would expect GIF can go up in a disk space and in size quite fast. I've experienced it. I've shared a lot of GIFs on social media, and on Twitter you have a limit. Either on Twitter or Twitter on LinkedIn, you have a limit of 10 megabytes, and you reach them quite fast. Okay, it's been 1 hour and 45 minutes, so let's try and cover. Okay, we have a few ones to cover, but we've done most of the job. Interface builder, bound rectangles. So we can select an option to show the bound rectangles. So let's try and enable it. I need to go into Xcode. So let's go into the storyboard. And so where was it? So it was here, this button here, and then bound rectangle. Okay, so it's this thing here, and then you do bounds rectangle. Okay, and you can see the bounds of each view. So it's similar to the thing we did to show the frames when it was running on device, except that this time it's in the, you have also the layout rectangles. I guess in that case they coincide with the bounds, I guess. And the layout, you have a bit more option. You can see that you have the baselines for the characters also. So that can be useful. That can be useful if you need to see the bounds. I wouldn't enable it all the time by default, but it can be useful. And it's good to know that you can also, if you want, you can hide the device bezels if you want to hide them or not show them. So that's kind of good to know it. Placeholder background also. So like a UI image view, if you disable it, then it will just like show nothing if you haven't set an image programmatically. I mean programmatically not programmatically in the storyboard I meant. So that's good to know that you have these options and they are on this menu. Okay, let's go back to the website. Next tip is about an additional tool called Pixie. Apparently, it's about the fact that you can download a package of additional tools on Apple website. One very useful tool in that package is Pixie that lets you check on pixel scale your designs. Okay, didn't know about that one. I will, for obvious reasons, not try to download and install a package while I'm live. But this package of additional tools for Xcode is good to know. I didn't know about it, but I will, if I have time, I will check it out. But it seems to be like the color picker. Yeah, I don't have many things to say about it because I've never used it before. But apparently, to get to downloading it, so you do Xcode, and then it's where developer tools, more developer tools, and then it opens, and then you need to log in. So I'm not going to log in, but if you want to try these tools, you can give them a try. Okay, Vim mode again. Find current word. So I guess it's to find other occurrences of the current word. Yeah, text node, text node, text node. All right. I won't try it again because we've seen that I'm not good at doing Vim, and since I've never used it, I have zero insight to share about whether this makes sense or not. So I will just need to trust the Vim users that this is useful, and I can imagine it being useful because you switch from one occurrence to the next one, but I wouldn't be able to say really in which situations it makes sense to use it. So I will move to the following one. Okay, we have only 12 tips left to go. So search scopes. So when you do a search in Xcode, you can choose Oh, this one is very useful because you can create, yes. So this one is very useful because you can exclude things and include things. So let me show you. So I'm going back to Xcode. In the search here, you can say in project, and you can create a new scope. And for instance, it can be in the project where all of the, for files where all the conditions are met. And so you can choose all, any, none. And then you can say file, for instance, you say like none of the conditions are met, and it will be files contain dot localizable. And by doing this, you are excluding all of the localizable strings from your search. This can be useful. One reason why you would use this is if you do a search and you have things that pollute your search. Like, I don't know, for instance, you have like a lot of JSON files for your mocks in the app, and it always finds results in them, and it annoys you. You could create a scope that is like excluding the JSON. Here it would be like excluding localizables. This can be useful in some situation, to be honest. What's good is that when it's enabled, it's shown in bright blue, so you see that it's happening. If you give it a good name, you see what's happening. So that's pretty good to know, and you can just enable or disable it by just clicking on it. This one can be really useful. I've used it to exclude the localizable because it was quite a nightmare to use it. I see a good question. Is it saved in the project file? Will committing it let colleagues see the scopes? I would tend to say no. You know what? I'm gonna try and open on my other screen source tree, because this repo is using source tree. Yeah, I can confirm it's not changing anything in my repo. So maybe you can commit a given file in Xcode that I'm not aware of it. Maybe there is a way to commit it, but by default, it's not committed. But I agree that being able to share it at a team level could be very useful. Either you can commit it, or I'm sure that there is somewhere a third-party tool that does the job for you. I'm sure of it, because I remember reading about such tool. I just forgotten about it, but I'm pretty sure that there is such a tool that does exist. But this ability to exclude scope is very useful. I've used it in the past, I think for localizable, and it did save me some time. Let's see what we have next. Will it be as useful? Oh yes, add errors and warnings. So this one is if you do command 5, okay, to show them, but yeah, we saw it to navigate to this thing here. But the tip is that you can do hashtag error and hashtag warning to add compile time error and compile time warning to your code. That's very useful. Especially like the warning can be useful if you want to leave yourself. I would say it's a to-do, but it's more like aggressive than a to-do. So it can be nice. If you're stopping your work for today and you want to have something that will jump to you the next day when you will resume working, warning is very useful. Error can also be quite useful, especially error. I find it to be quite useful if you do like you make sample code because you're an SDK developer and you have an API or whatever. You made a sample code for iOS and your user need to put, for instance, their API key, and you want to draw their attention to the place where they need to put their API key, then you put an hashtag error next to it, and the first time they try to build, they will have this error, and it will lead them right to this place. So hashtag error is a great way to catch the attention of a developer the first time that they open a project. So there are a lot of ways to use these two things creatively. I have videos about hashtag error on my channel. I think I have one maybe about hashtag warning, I'm not sure. And I have one also about how you can use @available to create deprecation warning that will be automatically triggered when you drop a version of iOS. So you could also use them. You're saying, Amir, you can add a placeholder for that use case. So you can add a placeholder. That's a good question. You can add a placeholder for your API key, for instance. But what's going to happen is that people will run your project. It will make a network call, and then they will see an error that says, "Oh, you need to update the API key in your project." Most likely. if your server responds with that. But then they will be wondering, oh, but where should I put the API key in the project? Even if you've written it on the web page, people will not. You can't assume that people will read. I've been writing a lot of documentation at work recently. You cannot assume that people will read anything. So if you have something that when they first try to build, it fails and it directs them to where they need to make the change, that's a great way of doing it. Another group of people that used this, not really this, but something similar creatively, it's when you use Eric Swift, you're supposed to store the result of an observation in something called a dispose bag. Otherwise, you have a memory leak. And if you don't, they will give you a warning. And the warning explicitly says that this should go in a dispose bag. Visit this URL to learn why. And it's a great way to convey message to developers for actions that are important to be implemented correctly. So I would say these two things, they are useful. So warning and error as a developer. But if you are an SDK developer, then they are even more useful. Or even if you're a core team developer and you're an SDK developer for your colleagues, it can also be really useful. And yes, using this placeholder, indeed, that's even better. Or that's even better, that's equivalent, but because it triggers an error when you don't set it. So yeah, that's also a very good strategy. I guess the advantage of using I'm going to show it in code, you're right, so that people can see it. I had shown it in a video 2 years ago, I think, but like for instance here, so it would be something like this. So place holder, so like that. So yeah, you can do it. One small advantage maybe of using hashtag error is that you have a bit more room to write stuff. I mean, you can also write stuff with the placeholder, but actually, I'm trying to see when you do a placeholder, can you put more than one? Can you put like spaces? You can put spaces, okay. So I guess you could also do it. I guess it's a question of choice. I used hashtag error because I don't know. I like the fact that it was very intentional and it was very obvious what you had to do. But using the placeholder is nice. And if you try to build and you still have a placeholder, let's see what happens. Normally, it shouldn't be able to build. If it does, it's gonna be weird. I'm trying to build. Okay, yeah. It says editor in placeholder file. So here you could say, for instance, replace. So you could say something like replace with your API key. Something like that. That could make sense. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. That might be even better than using hashtag error in that case. Good suggestion. That's a good one. Thank you. Let's see where we are. We only have a few tips to go over, and that's a good thing because I'm starting that my voice is starting not to go, but I feel like it's getting a bit tired. Simulator dynamic type. Oh yes, that one is useful. So on a simulator, command, option, and plus or minus to change the font size. So is the simulator still running? Let me run the app again in the simulator. So it's running, and then command, option, plus, and minus. That's so useful. I don't think if I knew about this one, but that's so useful to check that it displays as it should. And you can see it's available in the menu features, increase and decrease text size. The thing is then, you don't have the shortcut to put it back to how it is by default. So you have to wonder like which was the right one. That's always a bit annoying when there isn't a way to put it like at the default value, because then you're left like, okay, what was the one where I started with? But it's a good one, can be really useful if you need to test dynamic type. Back to the list of tips. Show only errors. So if you have errors in warning and warnings when you build, you can only show the errors. So here, so it will be in this view here by clicking so on the little thing here. So it's called show only errors. That's the name of the label. So if it appears off screen, and when you select it, you will only see the errors. So let me see. I'm going to show, like, this would be an error for sure, and then this would be a warning, I guess. Yes. So we have an error and a warning. If I click here, we only see the errors. Can be useful if you're in a project where there are a lot of warnings and it's overwhelming. Also, if you have a lot of warnings, it's not a good thing and you should fix them. But if you're ever like overwhelmed by a big amount of warnings or warnings that triggered before because something wrong happened, or like you're saying, Tom, in the chat, because you've added Swiftlane to the project, it can be, for this kind of like transient state, it can be a great way to focus on what might be actually the root cause of the issue. So that's a good one. And all of these little like filters and all of these little filters at the bottom can be really useful. And you can also, you have the one next to it, which is to show issues from documents that you've been recently building. So I'm not sure what recently means in that case, but maybe it can be useful also if you have a lot of like warnings and you only want to know the one that you've created recently. But I've never used that one, so I'm not sure what recent means in that context. Okay, we have only 8 tips to go. Quick actions. Oh, this one is very useful. So Command-Shift-A to open a menu that lets you run a lot of quick actions. So for instance, let's go back here. So in the movie, if I do Command-Shift-A and then quick action init, generate member-wise initializer. I guess I need to do it at the type declaration. So let's retry it again. Yes. It generates the member-wise initializer. So you can also do it by doing a right-click, refactor, and then generate. So it's more of a shortcut than anything else. But there are some interesting actions there. I'm trying to find one. The one to split the argument name across several lines. I don't remember who it's called. Yes, split section by line. No, is it that one? No. There is one, I don't know how they call it, because it's about like formatting. Format to multiple lines, this one, very useful. And there is also a shortcut which is Control M, so to be able to format over several lines, which can be useful when you start to have a lot of arguments. You can see here it's on the column, I'm hiding it, but it's on the column 101. So by using this shortcut, you get to use less colon and it's a bit more readable. So this one is really useful, and I see someone. So both Control M is useful and also Command Shift A, and I see a really interesting command that says get used to this shortcut, so Command Shift A, because Apple will probably add the AI Xcode stuff to this menu. So yes, we could expect something like a rewrite with AI or something like that. Yes, if it's added, it will probably be added there, or in a Copilot style where it makes suggestions wherever you have your cursor currently. But you're right, that's a very good suggestion, and I do hope that this year at WWDC we finally get some kind of like Copilot for Xcode, because it would be really nice to finally have something equivalent to Copilot after the rest of the world being able to use it for the last like 2 or 3 years. What do we have? Oh, format to multiple lines. So I've just showed it to you, and they choose the exact same example, which is a table view method. So Control M. I'm just going to show it again, because then I will add chapters to my YouTube videos, to the YouTube replay, and the chapter must be at least 10 seconds of length. So I need to show it again so that I can create a chapter for this tip. But you can see Control M to be able to format, to split across multiple lines. One thing that's tricky is that in the first beta of the current Xcode, it used to be in some of the menus here, and then they removed it. And I think there is no menu entry. It's either the shortcut like this, or it's using the Command-Shift-A menu. But besides that, you don't. I don't think you have a menu to do it. Even in like editor, I'm not sure that there is. Oh, it's here. Format to multiple lines. I was lying. It's in editor structure and then format to multiple lines. But I think in the first beta of Xcode, you could get it with a right click, and that's what they removed. So remember, Control M. This one is a very useful one. And we're getting into quite recent tips because these are features added to Xcode this year. So yeah, October 16th, 2023. So we're getting to really recent features. Another features of Xcode this year is to be able to add bookmarks to your code. So you can do a click and then control command and quote, or I think you can just do a right click, create bookmark. So like here, for instance, right click, bookmark, and then it puts your bookmark here. So it's quite useful to have the bookmarks. You can see it's also visible here. In the past, before bookmarks, what I used to do is to put a breakpoint and disable it. It was kind of like a makeshift bookmark. When you have several files open and you want to remember where each of them is, it was very useful. Now, of course, you can use bookmarks, which are even better. And it can be very useful. Like you're debugging a complex problem and you have your attention split across 3 different files and you really don't want to forget where these files are, or you put a bookmark on each of them. And this way, even if you close one of them by mistake or you quit Xcode by mistake or something like that, you will still have the bookmarks to be able to find them again. So bookmarks are extremely useful in Xcode. I think it's a really great addition that they made this year. Mathieu, you're saying another useful command is Command Shift Control A to show the commit relative to each line in a file and who made the change. Yes. So it's this thing. So how is it? No, you are saying Command Control Shift A. Yes. So it's this. So since I worked on the project, it's my name, but yes, it's what is now called the authors view. It used to be called blame because it's the name of the command on git blame to know who to blame for what's happening. Now they find a less aggressive way of phrasing it. It's called authors, and yes, it showed you who committed each line. Be careful that sometimes it might be that the commit might be because just someone did a refactor and they reindented things, but they didn't write the line originally. So be careful. Sometimes it can be a bit deceiving, but it's good to have this view, to have an idea of in which context was the change made. Exactly, it's a fancy way. It's a fancy way to do a git blame. Exactly. Find ancestor types. So you select a tip and then you do find ancestor types and it shows you all of the inheritance hierarchy. So for instance, here, movies view controller. You can also do a right click. I would have done a right click and then you do find ancestor types and it showed you. So movies view controller inherits from UI view controller, which inherits, you can see it here, from UI responder, from NS objects. And then you have also all of the protocols that it implements. You can see that there is quite a few, but it makes sense for something so central as UI view controller. That can be quite useful, especially if you are dealing with a type and you don't know where it comes from and you want to have a sense of, okay, what's the lay of the land here? You can see, okay, so this is a view controller, it does this and this and that. So it can be quite useful. Of course, here my type was called movies view controller, so it was quite obvious what was the underlying type. But for instance, UI table view, you can see, okay, I know you cannot see because you don't have access to the source code. So it only works when you have access to the source code. So it only works for your source code. But for instance, here, this type, movies service, I can do find ancestor types. And I can see, okay, it's movie service, and it implements the protocol movie servicing. Once again, I had everything visible, but it could have been in an extension. It could have been less obvious. So the right-click find menu can be really useful. Same thing for the protocol here. Right-click find conforming types. You can see all the types that conform to movie servicing. So we have movies mock service and the actual movies service. So that can be also quite useful when you need to navigate a large project. Line bookmark. So line bookmark, actually, I think I showed it to you before. You have two types of bookmark. You have a file bookmark and line bookmark. I think I showed you a line bookmark, so on line 37. But if I go into movie service and I do right click bookmark, you can just bookmark the entire, just like here, I bookmark, I think, the file. Yeah, I bookmark the file. And maybe actually I bookmark this type. Yeah, I'm not sure what is bookmarking, but it's not bookmarking a specific line. Maybe it's bookmarking no, actually, it's bookmarking the line where I was. So I'm not sure what's the difference between these two commands. To be honest, I think I've always used the one with a specific line of code, but I don't know what's the difference between the two. Maybe like if you move, maybe if you move your code, like one is going to move and not the other. To be honest, I'm not sure. So yeah, you have these two options for bookmarking. I'm not sure what the difference is between them. I think I've always used the first one just because it's the first one in the list and it feels like the most precise. But you can do. What's important to remember is that you can do bookmarks. That's the important thing. Okay, and there is a shortcut to do it. So Control Command and here, this thing which is a quote. Let's see, is it the same on the French keyboard? So Control, Command, and quote. Let's see. Control, Command, and quote. No, it doesn't work. Let me see what's the settings for my keyboard. So it would be about bookmark. Okay, so for me, it's U with an accent. Okay, so yes, and it adds the bookmark to the given line. All right, and if there is something on the line, it shows me what there is on the line and from this view right here, which can be useful if you're just like scanning through a list of bookmarks. All right. We're getting to the final 4 tips. So yeah, when I said around 2 hours and 20 minutes, I was quite good. So bookmark description. So we can add something to the bookmark. So we can add a description. So this is a description. And it's going to appear here. So it can be useful if you're debugging and you're just like leaving notes for yourself to be like, oh, maybe this is where like this thing is happening or stuff like that. At least you have a place where you can write text. So that can be useful. I've never needed to use it, to be honest. But if you ever find yourself having to use it, or if you need to put like some extra information, like I don't know, like a credential, a login. Something, a debug message that you want to reuse, it's a place where you can put it. What do we have next? Quickly open a bookmark. Oh, so if you put a name to the bookmark, then you can open it from Command-Shift-O. So I'm going to change, for instance, to this is my favorite bookmark. And then I switch to another file. I do like favorite. Oh, you can see it's happening. This is my favorite bookmark. So the bookmarks, they also happen when you do Command-Shift-O. So when I was telling you that Command-Shift-O is one of the best shortcuts that you can use in Xcode, and then it's going to open it. So that's good also, like if you want to make it easy to search, you can add search information right here. So that's a pretty good one. Penultimate tip, mark bookmark as complete. So there is even a to-do list. You can mark it as complete, so you can use it as a to-do list. That's really cool. I didn't know about this. I'm learning this right now. Once again, when we're talking about features who are not easy to discover, you see, you need to hover your mouse here, and I don't think I've ever done it. Or if I did, I didn't pay attention, because you can go pretty fast on it. So you can use it as a to-do list. That's good to know. That's good to know. You could have done it by just writing like... you could have done it by just writing done. No, not like that. Here, you could have written done here. It would have been also a possibility, a way to do it. But you have a built-in view for this. And can you actually? I'm looking like in the filter. Oh yes, if you click here, you're going to filter out the ones that are marked as done. So you can use it as a to-do list for what you have to do in your code. So a great use case I can see for it is if you are training or onboarding either junior developers or just like developers getting started with your code base, and you're guiding them for the first feature they need to make. What you can do is that together you can put like bookmarks in the code to where they will need to make the changes, and write a quick description of what need to be changed, and then they can check it as they are doing it. Plus you can move, so you can order as you want, so you can order them in a logical order. So indeed, most hidden feature in Xcode, hard agree on that one. But for onboarding people, it can be really useful. Or if you have a project that you are sharing as part of a tutorial, this will be also very useful. And I see a message. This appears in Git. So no, this is not in Git. Let me check. I'm opening source tree on my other screen just to check, but I wouldn't expect it to appear in Git. This is purely like inside Xcode. Maybe there's a way to commit them, I'm not sure, but by default, they don't appear in Git. They are only local to your Xcode. And now, let's go for the final tip. Select next occurrence. So whenever you have a text, if you are on it, you do Shift Option, and then you select it. So that's just to select it. And then you do Command Option E to find and to select the next occurrences. So let's try and do it. So for instance, here, I select it, and then I do Command Shift E. You can see it works. And then you can change everything all at once. What's a bit weird is that you see here it's selected that one, even though you probably don't want it. So it might not always work as you expect, but if you want to do a replace all for a local variable, it can be an alternate to doing edit all in scope. Even though I would still prefer to do right-click edit all in scope because it's not that longer to do it, and you're sure that it actually only edits that specific symbol, because with the other one, as we've seen, it can be a hit or miss. Here, you probably don't want to edit either this one here or this one there. But good to know it's more of it's a very like text editor level feature. But if you have a use case for it, or if you find yourself doing this thing that I've just shown you a lot, then you will be glad to know that there is a shortcut for it. Is there a shortcut for edit all in scope? I'm not sure there is one. Maybe you can create one. I remember that you had this option on the touch bar on the previous MacBook Pros, and it's one of the things I was very happy to use the touch bar for. Maybe the only useful thing I've ever used the touch bar for, but I don't think that there is one. You can do Command Shift A and edit all in scope if you don't want to do a right click. That can be faster, arguably, but I don't think there is one. You know what? Let's check. Edit. Oh, look at that. Control Command E. So there is one actually. So yep, there is one. Control Command E. There is one, and we've learned something more. So we've learned 66 tips, actually, not 65. We've learned one more. So thank you for the question. And yes, indeed, in the filter bar, you can show only the unchecked bookmarks. You're absolutely right. All right, let me go back. Yes, we've covered all of this. So we've covered quite a lot of content. It's been 2 hours and 18 minutes. Let me go back to full screen just to say goodbye. I don't think I will do a Q&A at the end this time because my voice is starting to feel a bit of a strain on my voice, so I'm going to take it slow. But I'm really glad about this live stream. I really enjoyed covering all of these tips. I've learned a few things for sure. I saw a lot of cool messages and interaction in the chat. So thank you all for watching live and for interacting, because having this interaction in the chat makes it just so much nicer. Imagine if I had spent almost 2.5 hours speaking by myself at home on a Monday evening. That would have been quite a weird experience. So thank you for being here. As always, the replay will be available immediately on YouTube with the same link, and I will add the chapters in the coming days. Adding the 67 chapter markers is going to be a fun one, but also a useful one because it will make the video much more discoverable on Google. And I guess, yeah, just have to say once again, thank you for watching the live stream live. Thank you for watching the replay. I mean, if you're at this point of the live stream or of the video, is that you've watched everything. So thanks a lot. I hope you've learned something new. If you knew some tips that I didn't cover during this live stream, please share them in the comments. I would love to know about them, and I'm sure that all the other viewers would also love to learn about them. And I guess I will just say see you next week for another live stream, which will be, it will either be how to write a simple macro, because I have the project ready for that, or maybe it will be how to learn UIKit when you know SwiftUI, if I manage to prepare everything that I want to prepare. That's all I had to say. Have a good evening, have a good rest of your day, depending on where you are in the world. For me, it's almost 10:30 p.m., so I'm going to go to bed pretty soon. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.